Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Parkinson's Podcast. Welcome to the Hear, Hear Parkinson's Podcast, where you will hear from special guests covering the world of Parkinson's with a deep dive on the World Parkinson Congress and a look at how the WPC has helped make extraordinary progress in the Parkinson's community by creating space for people with Parkinson's to have a seat at the table.
Here, here. It's another episode of the Here, Here podcast, leading us all to one step closer to the next World Congress in Phoenix, Arizona, May 26. My name is Edgar Baltmanis. I'm one of the 15 ambassadors worldwide, and I'm happy to run this podcast for all of us. Together with me is Eli Pollard. Welcome in, Eli.
Thanks, Edgar. Happy to be here. Happy to be your co-host.
Good, good. And as always, we have a guest of the week, a guest of the episode. And as some may know, I am Norwegian. And our guest of today is Sara Riggare from Sweden, right next door. Welcome in, Sara.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome you are.
It's fun nice to be among neighbors, right?
Right. So the heavyweight this week is European, and Eli has to defend the American side of things.
Yes.
I'll do my best.
Back to you, Sara. The focal point of this podcast is looking forward to next year's World Congress in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. Are you going?
Yes, I will.
And why do you say that already, 15 months ahead?
I have since I become involved with the WPC, I have only missed one Congress. So my first Congress was Glasgow in 2010. Then I was part of the inaugural ambassadors troop for 2013 in Montreal. I was in Portland, Oregon 2016, and I was in Barcelona 2023. And I missed Kyoto 2019 for family reasons. So I wouldn't, it would take a lot for me to miss Phoenix.
Right. What is so special about the World Congresses?
I've been thinking about it. I get this question quite a lot because people are curious in all sorts of contexts. And the WPC changes you. You come for the science and you stay for the community. Mm. The community is really the best in the world. And the community is so good because everybody's there. It's of course the high science, because that's what runs the Congress. But all the stakeholders are there, and that makes it different. I actually realized the other day that the world is now slowly catching up to the WPC's credo, if you may, because there has very recently been published a new version of the Declaration of Helsinki from the World Medical Association on how to conduct medical research in an ethical way. And in this new version that was published in October 2024, it says that, I'll actually find it and read it out to you, but I'll do that. So they talk about how, I'll give you a link so you can publish the link actually. Mm-hmm. They talk about how you should engage with the communities of the intended research, people intended to participate in the research, before, during, and after the research is being conducted. And that's really what the WPC is all about, to involve all stakeholders, and not least the people who are the sort of final, the people who are intended to be helped by all this.
I love that, Sara. We'll definitely share that link for people to review that. And Thank you. I loved what you said about how the WPC changes you. You come for the science and you stay for the people. That is,
Yeah,
I think, so true.
yeah.
Love
And Edgar, I met you the first time in Barcelona, so that was a nice place as well.
It was. It was my first Congress, actually. And I could have said the same that you said. I came for the science, and I stayed for the community, and that is what I keep coming back to, is also a term called the unconference, which is what happens between the sessions or even during the sessions when you and I go outside, because we have an idea that we can speak better about something outside the conference hall than inside. And
Yeah,
it's not being rude to the speaker in question, but it's just because, hey, we just caught onto each other in the lunch queue or over a cup of coffee there and started discussing, and then we decided to keep our conversation and discussion rolling.
yeah, and that's something that I usually advise people who are planning to go to Congress for the first time. That if you feel that you are drawn away from the sessions, if you are in a session but or maybe on your way to a session in the program, and meet someone and think, oh, I would like to discuss something with this person, don't feel bad about choosing that instead, because you can't make time, you can't make it to all the sessions anyway. So
Right.
whatever you choose to spend your time on is the right place to be for you.
That's
Yeah,
great. A lot of people say, I talk to people who've attended the Congress for the first time, and I ask them, what was your experience? And invariably they'll say, I really didn't attend many of the scientific sessions. I spent all my time
Yeah.
with people. And I'm like, that's okay. Like, that's part of the experience, right? And you still walk away a completely changed person. But it is always helpful beforehand. We often tell people, pick one session a day that you
Yeah.
really attend.
Yeah.
And then don't feel, just be realistic. Know that you're going to get stuck in the hallway having meaningful conversations that who knows where they're going to lead. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. We did simplify the program a little bit this year, Sarah. So the first,
Okay.
we won't have as many things happening as once,
Good.
and that was based on feedback from delegates. Everyone loves the program, but they couldn't choose, and it was frustrating. So we've simplified. So that may make it a little easier, or maybe not. We'll see.
we'll see.
It's
Well,
constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly improving. That's the way to go.
Mhm.
and I would like to add that it could also be that I run into Sara, and she says, hey, you should join me for the next session, because it's Eli Pollard they're talking about. And I say, who's that? And she says, just come on. And I
Yeah.
say, I was actually going on to this other session, and Sarah convinces me to change in the middle of track, sort of, to go
Yeah.
into Hall B instead of Hall A, where I was on my way to. That's also one way to see the community, is that we give each other tips and hints on what could be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen the WPC change over these since 2010, evolving for every Congress, and sort of moving and tweaking and more in a better way meeting the needs and wishes of the community. And the community is not only people with Parkinson's and our family and care partners, but also the researchers and the clinicians. And I've come to understand that the WPC is also unique in a way that it actively involves also the allied health professionals, in a way, both those doing research and those working mainly in the clinic. And that is also part of the community, which is really important.
It is. It is. I heard from someone else that there are, at least in the United States, there are now annual conferences about Parkinson's,
Mm.
and these are kind of drawing people away from the World Congress.
Yeah. I don't think it does in a way, and I think they are not competing, they are complementary, I would say.
Okay.
Because the World Parkinson Congress is World Parkinson Congress. So I mean there might be a few Europeans sneaking into those American conferences. I would imagine. But the World Parkinson Congress is, and it's good that it's not every year because we wouldn't have time to do anything else. And it's been varying, I think, between every 4 years, every 3 years. I mean, between the very first, the one I wasn't at, and the second went 4 years. But and then there was a small pandemic the other year that made it sort of skip a few beats as well. But I think it's worth waiting for.
Mhm.
Right.
I agree with you. It's complementary. But I think the nice thing is that since the WPC launched, other organizations have followed suit and they do try to have more interdigitated meetings, maybe on a smaller scale, a regional or country or statewide. And the reality is, people can't, not everyone can travel. So if someone can't come to the WPC because they can't take that much time off of work, or they don't have the funding, or they don't have the support to leave kids behind, whatever it is, but there's something regional in their province or their state or whatever that they can attend, that's good. I agree with Sara. It's complementary. And people need to have opportunities to access, and not everyone can access the WPC for whatever reason. So the more that's out there, the better.
Good. That's a positive, nice and positive way of seeing this. Also, in my own view, what is unique about the World Congress next time in Phoenix then is that it draws on not only people with Parkinson's, not only the patients, not only the doctors, not only the physiotherapists, not only the caregivers, the next of kin, but it draws on all of these communities, and you meet them
Yes.
all in one space.
Yes. And me being both a researcher and a person with Parkinson's, I find it extra interesting, of course, and I want to see more of that intersection. And it's interesting because I've seen I'm in a medical faculty at the university as a researcher, and in general, neurology is a very, very conservative field compared to other fields that I've been in, working in and meeting people both from the clinical side and from the patient side. So it's interesting that the World Parkinson Congress has been able to be at the forefront of this development. I mean, it's really there are very I haven't heard of any as sort of inclusive Congress in any other medical field that I know of, which is it's a privilege to be part of, I must say.
Well, we're lucky to have you. So Sara, I remember when you and I first met.
I do too, yeah.
I don't know if Edgar's heard this story, but we were standing in the middle of the exhibit hall at the WPC 2010 in Glasgow, and our mutual dear friend Tom Isaacs, who raise a glass to him, is no
Yeah.
longer with us on this planet, but he's watching over us somewhere. But Tom pulled me aside and said, "You have to meet this woman, Sara. And Sara, you have to meet Eli, because I think
Yeah.
there's a lot going on between you two." And that really kicked off our relationship. And at the time, you were not in your you had not even started your PhD program.
No, I was studying in a master's program in health informatics at that time.
And so then how did the WPC impact you and sort of your trajectory and your vision from like that point on? Like, how did it shift, or how did it help you rethink where you wanted to be, and what was that journey like?
Oh, it's not possible to state to overstate how important it has been, because it's been really really instrumental in how I found my footing in advocacy and research and connections, and putting sort of different fields together, and sort of I can't even begin to describe how important it's been, because it's very much intermingled with all the other things, but it's really a crucial part of my journey. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't been to the WPC in Glasgow. That's for sure.
And how did it impact your PhD research?
So that's a very good question. It's difficult to say direct impact, but for sure it has shaped my thinking. It's shaped my understanding. It's been a place where I can learn from within the field, where I can find inspiration, where I can find what works and what doesn't work, and also the people both in the PWP community and in the clinical community and in the research community. The connections I've made, they're invaluable, simply.
So these are people you draw on at later stages than the people that you met in Glasgow, or people that you now phone up and say, "Hi, it's Sara.
Yes.
How about ABC?"
Yes, I mean it's really enriched my life in ways I couldn't even imagine, and my family's life as well, because my family has been part of this as well, very much. And that was something I was thinking about. Different words. I know, Eli, you and I have talked over the years about that there isn't really a word in Swedish for advocate. Mm-hmm. And I think the same for Norway. And I'm thinking about this term, care partner. Or sometimes we talk about informal caregivers. So in Sweden and Norway, in Swedish and Norwegian, we have very specific words for this.
Yeah.
That mean that aren't directly translatable. So in Swedish we talk about anhörig eller närstående, which
equals the term
in Norwegian. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So for Eli and our listeners to say that it doesn't translate directly, because it's not care partner. It's someone who's touched by the disease or the illness or the situation. Is the pårörande and then anhörig. Whereas närstående is literally someone standing close to someone. Mm. So words are interesting. Words shape the way we perceive the world, the way we think. And I think this is important. This is something that the WPC also is able to bridge in a way and give us a place to discuss these things, how this shape our realities basically in different countries.
Yeah. I actually sometimes go the other way and introduce the term care partner to Norwegians. I say it's an English term, but a care partner could be the next of kin, which it usually is in Norway then, meaning your spouse or partner in most cases. And I say, well, a caregiver or care partner could be someone that actually drives you to your next meeting with your neurologist. Mm-hmm. It could be someone that joins you in that meeting and is listening, apart from, as opposed to myself, who doesn't listen to the doctor because I'm preparing my next question. I'm not listening to the current answer. I'm sort of preparing my next question. Or, as we say in Norwegian again, I hear what I want to hear. But the care partner sitting there actually hears what the doctor is saying about my medication, about the dosage of medication, about the timing of medication, about exercises I should do, etc. So there could actually be a care team around one person.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one person, which is more or less a legal person, as the term pårørende is in Norwegian.
It's a legal terminology thing, right?
Yeah.
And exactly that, listening to the previous question, thinking about it in your head, that's what I did now when listening to you as well. So I want to go back briefly to Eli's question on how the WPC has influenced my PhD or my research in a broad field sense. because also connected to words. Because I coined a new word in Swedish, spetspatient, which then is sort of a knowledgeable, an expert patient would be the short translation. It's not exactly that, but close enough. And the WPC has been instrumental in as a community, and as also for disseminating this work in how we developed a framework for competencies, different paths, different types you can use as an advocate, as a self-care expert, mentor, these different things. Maybe we can link to that as well in this later, because that's something we've used in both in Kyoto, where my colleague was there and presented this framework, and I used it in a session, a pre-conference session in Barcelona. So these different types of advocacy pathways you can take and combine in different ways. It's very much born and developed in conjunction with the WPC.
I love this so much, Sara. I mean, you know that I've been a huge champion of this.
Mm-hmm.
When I started in my position in 2004, so more than 20 years ago now, when people used the term advocate in the United States, there was really only kind of one or two things that they meant at the time. And it was, if you're an advocate, you're raising money for research, generally for NIH or for research, or you might be participating in clinical trials. So when they said, are you an advocate? I'm an advocate. Those were really the only two things that they meant. And I love that you did this research and work as part of your PhD process, and you've published on it and you've talked about it. You can be an advocate in dozens of different ways, and you've outlined that. And I love that so much. I mean, you could be a mentor to new people with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
You could be I'm sorry, I'm saying it.
No, but you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an activist, you can be a care coordinator, you can be. So there are 12 typology types that you can adopt and then combine in different ways. You can be a knowledge seeker, you can be a patient researcher, you can be. So we use these in the advocates committee for Barcelona as sort of a framework as well to show different ways you can use your skills and your passion and your energy as an advocate. And
Mm-hmm.
that can be a person living with a disease or a care partner, a pårörande or an anhörig family member as well. And there is a video we can link to that as well, maybe that David Sangster made for this, to present this framework as well.
Yeah,
it sounds like we need to publish a dictionary.
Yeah, why not? For Phoenix, you're thinking?
Yeah,
we can expand on the current. There is a terminology sort of part of the website, if I remember correctly.
yes.
Eli, and we can expand on that.
I love that idea. I love that idea. And I know last time, Sara, you had those little booklets with stickers.
Yes.
People could identify what kind of advocate they were.
And you could put them on your conference badge, and people did, and it was wonderful.
I think we should expand that. So we'll circle back after this podcast and take action on some of these.
Yeah.
I think, it was interesting. We were talking about care and care partners and the role of family members. And I love that you said that term in Swedish translated as kind of like person touched by Parkinson's. I mean, the reality is, we all know for every person living with Parkinson's, there's a circle of people around them that are all touched by it: children, spouses, grandparents, siblings, community people. And I think what's nice is, I'll just do a little pitch here on this podcast, is that, Sara's son, Isaac, is going to be a part of an upcoming webinar series with us, looking at children and Parkinson's. So how children grow up in households with Parkinson's, whether young children, teenage or adults, children. And I'm very excited and really thrilled to have Isaac be a part of, this conversation. Any thoughts, Sara, like as someone who raised a child literally with Parkinson's from sort of day one, it's all Isaac's known. How do you think the Parkinson's has impacted sort of Isaac's view on the world, just from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a question I've been thinking a lot about over these years. Isaac turned 22 yesterday, so it's been a while. Yeah, it's crazy actually. So I think I'm actually convinced that my Parkinson's or has given Isaac a view of the world that would be different from if we hadn't been growing up in a family with a chronic condition. I think it's given Isaac more of empathy and understanding for other people's struggles. I think it's given Isaac the view that the world, it doesn't have to end, your life doesn't end with a complex chronic condition. You can still enjoy life to the fullest, and that you can do things that you maybe didn't even think you could do, even though this is happening. And I'm also convinced that it's given Isaac a lot of laughs, a lot of traveling, and meeting a lot of people that we would never have met if not for this condition. So Isaac is now studying a psychology program, psychology master at Uppsala University. And I think that is also, I wouldn't say that it's directly connected to my Parkinson's, but I think I often see children of both children who are children now, but also people who have parents who are now my age, seek their careers out of sort of interest from something they grew up with. Of
course.
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't say that these things couldn't have happened also without my Parkinson's, but I'm sure that they have been enhanced and sort of strengthened by this. And don't miss that webinar, guys.
No.
Don't miss the children. It's going to be a great panel. Isaac's joining up with a bunch of other children whose parents are also big advocates in the Parkinson's community. So it will be that it's really about when I grew up, there was a show in the US called Wonder Twins. So they would do this comic and they would hit their wrists and say Wonder Twin powers activate. And it was always, we kind of grew up with that. And I think about this is like the activation of the next generation of advocates and activists.
This is the ripple effect of the WPC for sure.
Yeah, but it comes naturally to them because they've watched their parents do it.
Yeah,
but for them, but yeah.
But the WPC has given them a safe space as well to see this unfold. So I mean, it's really wonderful, and I know that many of these children who are also young adults, many of them now in this webinar, have been to one or several WPCs. So I mean, they have grown up with this literally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'll be wonderful to see it in April.
Yeah, I sometimes do play with numbers in Norway because I said that we're supposed to now be 13,000 Norwegians with the Parkinson diagnosis, and then I say that according to statistics about networks. Every person
6 degrees, you're saying, thinking about.
Exactly, the 6 degrees. Well, that's one thing. I say an average person is supposed to have around 500 people in his or her network, because it is, you said, all the family part, spouse, children, parents, aunts, uncles, blah blah. And then you have colleagues at work, you have schoolmates, etc. If you do up the numbers properly, every person has a network of 500 people.
At
least, and if they are all affected, because my colleagues at work, again, varies from country to country. Norway is very liberal in this sense, and gives you large freedom to work even in a 10% job. Well, they say, well, then you come in half a day per week, but at least you have a job to go to. At least you have colleagues to connect with.
That's important. So
And
social context is very important.
but of course, if I now drop from 100% job to 10%, someone else is having to do the remaining 90 that I did yesterday, but I'm not doing today. So large groups are actually affected by my Parkinson's. And I say, now if you add up the numbers, this gives you, I can't remember. I should, of course, know my own numbers, but as the saying goes, you do the math and see how many people are actually affected in your country or in the United States, in your home state or so. And if all of these people are touched by Parkinson's, well, then we need to take this seriously. We need to sort of discuss whether a person can work only 10% or 20 or whatever. And instead of just saying, yeah, we'll see over time, yeah, we'll see how it goes. You can't just see how it goes. You have to make a program around it. As I say, who's doing the remaining 90% if I drop to 10% only? More regular would be, of course, if people work half a week or 3 days a week or something. But even then, there is a remaining slice of the pizza that someone else has to do now, since I'm not doing it anymore. So I think all of these are interesting questions that will be discussed in Phoenix back and forth, both inside the sessions and in the unconference rooms and the cafes and everything. We are coming to the end, unfortunately, Sara, but at least now our listeners know who they should look for to connect with in Phoenix.
Happy to talk, for sure. Yes, please do connect with me.
Yes, and speaking of connections, we have an exit question, which is that if you read in an elevator and it all of a sudden stops between two floors and you're stuck there, who do you want to be stuck with?
Yes, that is of course a very difficult question, and it can be living or present
Yep.
technology.
Living or dead?
So I would like to talk to Astrid Lindgren. I would like to meet her. She was the author of Pippi Longstocking and all these other wonderful stories. And Ronja, the what's that in English? I don't even know. The robber's daughter, I think, in English. And because she grew up in Sweden in the early 1900s and wrote these wonderful stories, and her fantasy, her storytelling, and her compassion for the world, and she also wasn't afraid to take the politicians by the ear and tell them they did wrong if they did, and she had lots of sort of she seemed to have been a wonderful person. I would like to talk to her.
Good. That's an interesting topic. Pippi Longstocking, Astrid Lindgren, her mother.
Astrid Lindgren was the author, yes. Pippi Longstocking, and I'm not sure how many of her stories are known beyond sort of in English, but I know Pippi Longstocking is, and I think Ronja the robber's daughter, I think, is as well. But
Well, I'm gonna look it up. I mean, I've certainly Pippi Longstocking. I grew up with that story here, but
there are so many more of her characters, and they're so ingrained in the Swedish culture, and I think Norwegian to some degree as well.
Yeah. It's flown over it's overflowed.
I mean, Emil and Karlsson på taket and all these, right?
Yeah. Every
So
single one of them.
Lots of them, yeah.
amazing.
And she lived in a flat very close to where we used to live in Stockholm city center. So I think she passed away in 2003 or 2004 somewhere, and so I used to go with Isaac in the pram and sort of look up at her windows.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her flat is now a museum.
Oh,
Cool.
is it?
Oh, nice. Okay.
So the most recent Nobel laureate in literature, Han Kang from Korea, she visited that museum when she was here for the prize,
That's nice.
and because she had taken so much inspiration from Astrid Lindgren in her own literature.
Love that.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us today, Sara.
Thank you for having me. This was delightful.
Good, good. Looking forward to seeing you in real life in Phoenix about 15 months from now.
Yes.
And Eli, thank you for being my co-pilot again.
A pleasure.
As it was for me. Thanks to both of you. Have a great day still, and we will be seeing each other.
Thank you for joining the Here, Here Parkinson's podcast. If you would like to experience the next World Parkinson Congress for yourself, to feel and see the change in real time, save the date to join us from May 24th to the 27th, 2026 in Phoenix, Arizona. Learn more at wpc2026.org. This podcast series is made possible with support from Blue Rock Therapeutics.